Hi, students of 4B. I wanted to go over the vocabulary cards with you. So go ahead and rip out the page out of the book. This is the chapter 10. And we're going to be taking notes on the back of each card before we cut them out. And so the easiest way to do that is to fold this paper hot dog style. And I'm going to zoom in here so we can be real close. There we go. All right. So the first vocabulary word we're going to look at are equivalent fractions. Now, equivalent fractions are fractions that are equal to each other. For example, 2/4 equal 1/2. So it's also like if you were to say 6 or 12, 6 of 12, right? 6 of 12 equals 1/2 also. So things that add up, or you can divide, like I know that 6 is half of 12, making it a half. There's lots of other equivalent fractions that don't necessarily have to do with a half, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But on the back of the equivalent fractions side, what I would like you to know is that some fractions want to know what is not equivalent. So the definition for equivalent fractions is fractions that are represented the same part of the whole. The prefix non means not. And here we're going to describe two non-equivalent fractions. So we're going to write an example of non-equivalent fractions. And as you might have guessed, we could do 1/2. If I have 1/2 of a pizza, right? 1/2 of the pizza, and I have 1/4 of the pizza. Are these two the same or equivalent? They are not. And so the way we show that is equal sign with a slash, and that's the secret code for not. You can also just mention 1/2 and 1/4 are non-equivalent or not equal, right? Ooh, I'm going to spell that wrong. Do it right down here. EQUIV. Sorry about that. So let's look down at the second vocabulary word right underneath. And that is the numerator. And the numerator is the number that is the part of the whole, telling us how much of the whole pizza we're going to have. So the numerator is on top. So the number of how many we have is kind of how I like to think about that. So the numerator is the top number in a fraction. It is the number of the equal parts being represented. So in the fraction 4/8, what is the numerator? And what does it show? Well, the numerator is the one on top. So the numerator is 4. And it means 4 of 8. So 4 of the 8 slices of pizza, 4 of the 8 pieces of cake. That is the numerator, showing the part of the whole. How much of it do we have? Going back over to the other side here, we're just going to start back up at the top. Now we have denominator. And the way I like to remember denominator is denominator down. D down. Denominator down. So I bet you can guess it is the bottom part of the fraction. In this case, it is 8, and it represents how many total parts. So turning it over, The bottom number in a fraction, it is also the total number of equal parts. So we're going to draw a model to show 3 different fractions that all have a denominator of 4. So I'm going to cut this into 3 spots. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a box and cut it into 4 parts. And we're going to pretend that those are all equal parts. Excuse me. And I know that I'm talking about denominators. And so I want my denominator to have a 4, right? Because there's 4 total parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, oh, excuse me. I get to decide what parts I want to make the numerators. So I could fill in that square, and that would be 1 of 4 pieces, right? This one could be 2 of the 4 pieces. And this one, we'll pretend they're all equal, is 3 of the 4 pieces. So denominator down, denominator down. Moving down to the next one. Ooh, sorry, paper. Is fraction. This fraction is 1 3/4. So really there should be a big 1 right there. So it's 1 whole rectangle and then 3/4 of another rectangle. We don't have the whole rectangle. So that definition is a number that represents an equal part of the whole or an equal part of a set. So we're going to draw a rectangle and divide it into 6 equal parts and color the parts to represent 3, 6. So I know I need to have 6 equal parts, 3, 6, and then we're going to color the parts. So that's my important information. So I need a rectangle. I like to make it kind of big. Give me a little bit more space here. And the way I do my 6 or any even number denominator, I cut it in the middle. Then I know I need to have 3 parts on this side and 3 parts on this side. So I'm going to kind of eyeball it a little bit there. Okay. So each of these is 1/6. And these are actually called unit fractions, and we're going to talk about them in just a second. And so if I have a rectangle with 6 parts and it's all filled up, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. But they're telling me I just need 3/6. So I'm going to count how many? 1, 2, 3. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. Here is a rectangle that shows 3/6. Now, looking down at the next definition. I just talked about this one. It is the unit fraction. And with the fraction, I showed you how I labeled it. I like to know what my fractions are all about. And each part of this, we'll call it circle, pizza, is 1/3 slice. So maybe I just have 3 friends. So the 3 friends, we're going to divide it equally. And I get 1/3, which is 1 unit fraction. So flip this on over again. Represent the quality formed by one part when a whole is partitioned into equal parts. So when I'm breaking down a big thing into smaller things. So a unit can mean a single thing. And that's kind of the important part here. Single thing, unit, single, right? Just one of these, just one of these 1/6 up here. How does this help understand the definition of unit fraction? Well, it's a unit is a part, right? And so the definition there, it says a unit fraction shows a single part of the whole. right? So it's just showing us a part of the whole. So this 1/6 is just one part of this whole rectangle. Excellent. These are the vocabulary words that they would like you to have understood. So you can choose to keep it folded in half and flip it back and forth, or you may choose to cut it out. Whichever you choose to do, that is fine with me. So, happy math vocabulary.